through difficult interactions. That should be the screen on, correct? Everyone sees the screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the training now, and just got it. You know, just have to click a button here to say I got this recording's happened. Perfect. Okay, so here's the deal. We're challenging perceptions and having difficult conversations. And it's around, when we have difficult conversations, it's often around the stories we tell ourselves about what we think that's happening. So here we go. Let's start. And Dean, hopefully everybody can see this okay? Go.
10 mind-blowing optical illusions. Flat third dimension. Nothing appears abnormal about this Rubik's Cube until you realize it is a two-dimensional image. This illusion is created with a distorted perspective of an image that requires to be viewed at a specific vantage point to create the 3D effect. This is the same method used in the very popular 3D sidewalk art. The Ames Room. The Ames Room illusion creates a cartoonish and very intriguing effect of drastic size differences between people and objects. By tricking your depth perception with an irregular shaped room, the walls, ceiling, and floor align in a way that will appear normal at just the right angle. This causes everything else in the room to appear to warp in size. Following eyes. Here is a simple but very effective illusion that makes it look like these little guys are watching you. This is done by manipulating the way you see perspective and the brain's natural ability to pick out faces and patterns. The head is actually concave, and this sets up a contradiction in your brain to make it look like it's turning to follow you. The dress. Whether you see black and blue or white and gold, this dress has caused debate and confusion. Though the dress is indeed black and blue, it has become a popular example of color constancy. Depending on individual perception, as well as current room lighting, the dress can be seen as either black and blue or white and gold. Circle illusion. It is easy to assume that these dots are moving in a circular pattern. However, they are not. Each dot is traveling in a straight line while on its own path from one end of the circle to the other. By adding each dot one by one, you can see the illusion come into place. Motion illusions. These images are not animated, but they appear to be moving due to the cognitive effects of interacting color contrasts and shape positioning. If you're feeling skeptical, pause this video and watch as these images continue to wave, twist, and pulse. Animation illusion. This clever and old-timey technique creates a multiple frame animation on a single sheet of paper. By manipulating the mind and eye, these still images come to life using a simple graded card. Drop-off room. This 3D painted room is enough to trigger one's acrophobia, as it seems to be a massive drop-off. This painting was created by master of optical illusions, Regina Silveira, whose work often contains a larger-than-life bent reality. Yes, no. Artist Marcus Rates specializes in optical illusions with his mind-manipulating 3D creations. A prime example of his work is this sculpture of the word yes that can be read from one angle, but move to another angle and it morphs into the word no. Backwards chair. This chair appears as normal as a chair can be at first glance, but just wait until this man has a seat. It might feel surreal at first, but this chair is actually built in a warped and irregular way that makes it look like it is facing one way, but in fact, it is facing the other way.
Amazing optical illusions. So today we're going to be talking about, and if people want to turn their cameras on, I love it when cameras on, I can see you. I know you're probably eating lunch, but that's fine. Have your cameras on, that'd be great. We're working at setting the table properly for a difficult conversation. And what I mean by setting the table is, if you, for example, I don't know, Rachel, you invited me to your home and you set the table for the home and you invited me to the table, you invited me in such a way that's sort of saying, okay, let's talk, let's have a conversation. And this training today is just about setting the table right, working with questions to prepare, and a clear understanding of the process of having a difficult conversation, because there is a process, and it usually happens in setting up in the first 10 or 12 seconds of the conversation will determine whether the table is set or not. So think of and what I want you to do now is, I need you to do something really unique, and you're only going to see it. I want you to take 4 minutes right now. I want you to think of a very difficult conversation that you feel you need to have with someone after today. It could be tonight, could be next week, it could be next month, but it has to happen. I simply want you to write down on a sheet of paper right now, and I'm giving you 4 minutes time to do this. And there's a reason why we're doing the pre-assignment. It's only for your eyes. We're not sharing it with anybody. From your perspective, what happened? How has it affected you personally? And then just take like 2 or 3 sentences, a paragraph of what you would say to the person if you met them right now to start the conversation. They're the things. Go for it. I'll time it on my watch. We have 2 minutes left. One minute to go. Okay, we're getting close to timing, guys. I think people should be finishing up there. Their time to go. Here we go. So we're going to start out for our challenging conversation. What we're going to do is I've already got your breakout rooms ready to go for breakout rooms. And what I'm going to do is I want these people. So Alicia Weber, don't go when I do the breakout room. Don't go to the breakout room yet. Stay here. So these are the people that are going to stay here with me for a minute before you go to the breakout rooms when we open them. So Alicia Weber, I want Angela Karshidi. I want Carolyn May Quinlan. I want Courtney. I would like Ashley Boschnick Kaczynski. I'm getting that wrong. And I want Helena Finn Vickers. I want Jackie Franklin to stay with me. I want Kim McFall to stay with me. I want Lee Garnier, and I want Lucy. And what's Lucy's last name? Ngar. Okay, you know who you are, Lucy. Stay here. Lynn, stay here. Reva, stay here. Sarah, stay here. Tanya, stay here. And that's it. The rest of you can go to your rooms. So I'm going to open up the rooms now. I want you guys to stay with me. I'll open the rooms. Those many people I mentioned, just stay here for a minute. Everyone else go. Okay, here we go, guys. This is what we're going to do. You've got a few minutes now. You are going into a conversation with your coworker. Just say, by the way, Gary told me you're my coworker and we share a cubicle together at work. That's the introduction, correct? They have body odor and you need to address their body odor. So I want you to have the first difficult conversation. They don't have a clue what's going on. I'm giving you 3 minutes to address their body odor, okay? And I want to see them take ownership of it and them understand it and then come back. You guys okay with that? Go to your rooms. That's it. And I have one person. Okay, and that's perfect.
Mary B was assigned to room 11, Gary, but she has technical issues and she stepped out for a second. I think it has to do with video and mic problems.
Okay, so it looks like we have a couple people. Okay. Room 11, they haven't joined. We have, hey, Reva, you haven't joined anybody yet either, have you? Oh, you have to do your mic, Reva. We can't read lips. So I'm going to put, I'm going to decide to group 1. Okay. I'm going to put Yvonne in group 1. Perfect. Yeah, I had them all set up, ready to go, Dean, when they were doing their conversations.
Okay, great.
So I can see who's in the room. Looks like Alicia is in with Yvonne, but Yvonne isn't in with anybody because no one's there. And Janice is with, okay. So I'm going to move Janice to group 1. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move Janice around. It looks like now group 1 will have. Okay, perfect.
Lynn was supposed
looks like Yvonne did join.
Yeah.
So I'll move Yvonne to group 2.
Lynn was supposed to be with Mary B, but Mary B doesn't have the technical capabilities with her system.
Yeah, no, I just moved Yvonne to group 2. And I'm trying to get everybody together. Some people haven't joined, they're not on. It looks like they're pretty good. It looks like, though, that we have Rachel should go with room 10. So I'm put Rachel, here we go, move to group 10. I can do this right now. I'm looking at the people that are actually in rooms.
Good.
And perfect. They're having a difficult conversation. Looks like Tanya's by herself in one room. So I'm going to go meet with Tanya. I'll go join Tanya. Yeah, I said I'm not going to go unless Tanya's not with. There's some people not joined in. They're on, but they're not on. That's a challenge of doing something like that, right? So unless you want to have the conversation with Tanya, someone's joining right now. Admit, okay. And I'll put And I'll put her into with Tanya. And Tanya is in group 15. So assigned to group 15. There you go. The one that just joined, I put her in a group. Normally, this is a full day workshop, right, Dean?
I see.
And we do a lot. There's a lot of things we're leaving out that we can't do, triggers and all kinds of things. And we actually do an assessment for this. Like I'm doing a large group tomorrow, and they do these pre-assessments on their conflict style. And we can say what naturally style they are about conflicts and what other people's styles are. It's quite interesting.
So I see Helena and
Yep.
Jackie. Helena is alone in room 6 and Jackie alone in room 7.
But they're not joined yet.
Oh.
You see they're not joined? You see there's little things saying not joined beside it?
Right. I just don't
That
see
means
it.
they're not joined because they're not in with anybody. If they're in the room, the green light's on. There's a little, if you look at the rooms above it, it says Emily, you'll see a
Yes.
green button.
Yes.
They're not even in their room. The ones that I have not joined, like room 11, Lynn and Mary B, haven't joined because there's no green dots.
Okay.
So I said, I'll give them the tough, I'm just going to bring them back. We're going to get right through.
Okay.
Yeah, just give them a minute or two to do. I'm going to bring them back now. They got 60 seconds to come back. Have you done breakout rooms before and administrated it?
Not like this. No, no.
When you close it, they got 60 seconds on the clock to come down.
Okay.
Unless I like Rachel that jumps in right away. Rachel, were you in a group?
I was in a group by myself for a very long time, and then someone else jumped in, and then she has no audio. So yeah, I had a little bit of a nap. It was all good. So what's going on?
I love it. Well, the problem is, Rachel, this is the problem. The reason we're doing the workshop today is because we wanted to talk to you. And that's why we separated you up from the rest of us so we could have a really difficult conversation with you. Does that sound good? So anyways, everybody should be back. Is everyone back yet? Real quickly. And the breakout rooms, I think there's still some people in breakout rooms that are closing off. They had 1 minute to come back, so they're going to come back now.
We had 35 participants, but it reads only 10 right now, which would suggest another. Oh, there's 27.
Oh, there they are. They're all coming back in. This is great. I love people in the group. Please keep your cameras on. I just want to know from a couple people, the people that were receiving the news, how did it go? Who was the one that received the news that they had a problem? Who? Okay, Donna, what happened? How did it work out?
Well, Courtney was very gentle. So yeah, I mean, she kind of, we kind of more talked about, I have to say, what we would do in this situation. So
Okay.
but I could feel, even as she was explaining what she needed to tell me, it felt uncomfortable. It made me feel like kind of uncomfortable. So I could imagine someone getting this news. Again, like she started off with, just want to have a chat. You're not in trouble. Like you haven't done anything wrong.
Okay.
So she did try to put me at ease, like from the start. But yeah, I could see how someone actually receiving the news could be quite offended and get their back up for sure, even though she was very gentle.
Well, here's the deal.
If you're on this,
I'll just put you back to this one. In these kind of conversations, I've seen it go like this way, and I've seen people do it in real life. They actually bring a bottle of deodorant and they stick it on someone's desk when they're not around, and they leave. Hopefully they'll get on. Or they show up at the office and they say, you know, do you ever notice things are different around here? And they start talking, and you think, what do you mean different? Of like the lighting, the flooring. He said, no, there's a smell or something like that. And you kind of just slowly, and it takes about 15 minutes for them to actually say, and they actually never say it, you know, I think you may have body odor, right? And of course, it's really hard to bring that up. And so approaching the conversation is really hard. There's a way of doing it, by the way, that's really simple. And I'm not going to do it now, but maybe at the end of the day, I'll show you, well, I'll give you an idea of how we do it. But starting and having different challenging conversations is hard, because how do you approach it in a very direct way so people understand three things? Number one, what the issue is. Number two is if they own part of the problem, what part are they going to own? Number three is you leave the conversation and the other person, actually, you and the other person have a stronger relationship, not a weaker one. Those are the three keys for a difficult conversation. If you don't do all three, if you're just coming in blasting and telling them how stupid they are and how dumb this is, that's not really a conversation, that's a dumping. So here's someone who had a really bad conversation and did it really poorly. This would be in 2021 over Zoom.
If you're on this call, you are part of the unlucky group being laid off. Your employment here is terminated effective immediately. It's been a really, really challenging decision to make. This is the second time in my career I'm doing this, and I do not want to do this. The last time I did it, I cried. This time I hope to be stronger. But we are laying off about 15% of the company.
You gotta be kidding me.
The market has changed, as you know, and we have to move with it in order to survive. You're going to get an email from HR, askhr@better.com, and your benefits. For all U.S. employees, we're
This is
providing
not
4 weeks.
real. Oh my God.
of
I
severance.
can't believe this.
I won't
1
even
month
go
of
on.
benefits.
I'll just stop it right there. Yeah, you can hear the guy, you hear the people in the background on the Zoom call. The line I liked the most when he said, I hate to do this, and the last time I cried, right? And you go, really? That's what you're saying to that many people and you're laying them off? It's unbelievable. That was, if you saw it, it was on during COVID. So and we're not going to do this, but if I had to ask you a question from a scale of 1 to 10, what your comfort level is in having a difficult conversation. If you naturally love them, then you're a 10. If you're not, then you're a 1, 2, 3, whatever. I just want you to put your fingers what you are. Are you a 0? Are you a 1? Are you a 5? Are you a 10? Put your hands up. Go. Where are you? 3, 3,
For what?
6, 7, 3, 2, 3, 5, 7. Oh, Dean's a 5. Perfect. Oh, Tish, you're an 8. You're a 7, 8. You're good. You should run this course, Tish. You're good at
No.
this. No?
No, I can. I'm friendly. I don't know.
Well, you can still be friendly and have really difficult conversations, hopefully. But we asked the question, why are some people allergic to having difficult conversations, right? And we haven't got time for a small group discussion, but I'd like quickly for you to express to me, anybody, why do you think it's difficult in a really concise way to have a difficult conversation? What stops us from having them? Anyone?
Because we don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Okay. And their feelings are important. Okay. Yeah.
And
Anybody
we
else?
want to be liked. We want to be nice.
Oh, I love that one. And are you being nice when I walk into a room and you notice I've got that stuff on my face that I didn't clean off and it's been on my face all day long and no one says anything? And then you don't want to hurt my feelings, but you want me to walk all through the day with some stuff hanging on my, right? Yeah. Good. Anybody else? I'd love this. Anything else?
You know what, Gary, I would have no problem telling you you had something on your face, but I would have a harder time talking to you about a behavior modification, like something in your character or behavior. It's so personal. And I think that's where I personally struggle. And I kind of pussyfoot around the situation, but I've learned since then to just be very direct. I call it the 30-second fallout. So I just say it and then I wait for 30 seconds to hear what the fallout is. That's the way I've been coping with it.
Okay. Well, here's a question. If we don't have these conversations, what is the impact? Especially if you're a leader, and that's where it comes down to. Sometimes if you're leading volunteers, you're leading staff, and you don't have the conversation, there's a problem because there is a crisis in our workplace now that people that should have difficult conversations aren't having them. There's also challenging conversations for different generations. And you have different generations in the workplace. I'll give you two examples of two completely different generations and the challenges of communicating with them. Don't be offended.
Amy, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
No.
PowerPoint?
No.
Publishable?
Not really.
Exactly in what area of technology are you proficient?
Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Vine, Twitter, you know, the big ones.
I'm surprised you didn't say Facebook.
That's for old people, like my parents. That's funny.
Well, Amy, when you're working for me, you have to have those kind of research skills because I'll send you things for you to comb through and get the answers and send them to me. So for that, you got to be really good at technology.
For stuff like that, no problem. I'll just ask Siri.
You'll just ask Siri?
You know, Siri, tell me this, Siri, find me that. We're all good at getting you the answers.
Tell Siri, I want you ready to go at 8 sharp each and every morning.
I don't understand
What don't you understand?
what you just said.
You don't understand be ready to go?
No. You said 8, right?
Yes.
8 like in the morning, 8?
Yes, in the morning.
Yeah. That kind of doesn't work for me. Who gets up at 8?
I do.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning. I don't even get to Starbucks until like 10, where I order my grande chai tea latte, 3 pumps, skim milk, light water, 2% foam, extra hot, but not too hot. So if it's okay, I work best in the morning at 10:45.
Wow. Amy, I don't think we're going to be a good fit.
Why are you so negative? I can sense your hostilities, and right now I am not feeling very safe. I've been here for over 5 minutes, and the only nice thing you have said to me was nice resume, which I typed all night for this meeting with you. You've given me no guidance, no validation, no encouragement, no supervision. Is there an HR director somewhere?
HR director?
Yes, I need to speak to someone. I may have to take off today as a mental health day.
Take the day off. Amy, look at me. You don't work here.
Are you firing me?
Okay, yes.
We'd be amiss if we didn't hear the next generation, my generation. We talk about different generations, and we made fun of 2 of them. But cross-generationally, it doesn't matter what generation you're in, having stressful conversations, especially if you're working volunteers, which is we're talking about here in terms of your associations. Volunteers could span the whole gamut. And having stressful conversations, I think, is just as important with volunteers as it is with full-time staff or staff you may direct. But there's a crisis going on in our country right now.
Stressful conversations are unavoidable in life, and in business, they can run the gamut from having to fire somebody, which is like the most gut-wrenching thing you will ever have to do, or admitting failure, that you really blew it, or another thing that you might have to do is deal with a customer who's really upset.
How about a smoothie? What's in that?
Smoothie's a juice drink. We want coffee.
And I think it's very natural to want to avoid those conversations like the plague. But especially in business, there's an epidemic right now of people that are unwilling to have uncomfortable conversations. Harvard Business School just did a study, and they found that 67% of managers are uncomfortable talking to the people they manage. And this gets me to what I want to talk to you today. It is the secret to how to have a difficult conversation. Because what's critical is learning the skill of untangling your emotions from the subject matter and being able to go face to face with anybody and have that difficult conversation.
And the challenge we have is a balance between outcome and relationship. Because when we have that difficult, people mention, I feel uncomfortable. I feel like it would hurt our relationship if I actually said what I really needed to say. Here's a challenge in the workplace. Without having a difficult conversation that should be had with an individual, we're not talking about groups, we're talking one-on-one. Let's say you're a supervisor and you have a team, and one of your members of your team is doing something that's inappropriate. Could be behavior, could be an attitude, and you're not addressing it. By not addressing it, you're actually endorsing that person's behavior. You agree with me? Because you have a culture you allow or you create. So if you don't address it with someone, and if you've been given a position of leadership, you should address it. By not addressing it, everyone else in the room is saying, You know, why isn't, I don't know, why isn't Laura discussing this with this person? This person's always late for meetings, and yet this person's getting away with it. If they are, I guess I can be late too. It doesn't really matter. Or if someone is being disrespectful at a meeting and is not spoken to. So it's finding that balance between relationship and outcomes. And it's a bit of a challenge. So here's the deal. Listening well is hard work. Because when you're really listening, you're listening to learn, not listening to win, or not listening to fix. And we often do that. When we listen to people, we have a conversation, we go into the conversation, even people like Sheldon have a hard time being heard. Okay, so the challenge we have often in difficult conversations, like we did the very first about, we showed you that video on optical illusions, is we're actually not, we perceive some things happening. And when we have a difficult interaction, when we see something happening, we tell ourselves a story. And imagine you're sitting at a table with a group of people at a meeting. All of a sudden your boss is at the meeting, you have a certain role or responsibility at that, you know, and all of a sudden the boss at the meeting mentions to everybody else, so by the way, instead of Sarah, you're doing this job, and they don't really say it, they say, well, now so-and-so is going to do the job that Sarah used to do, and goes on, right? Sarah, you're complex, correct? You're going, so you don't say anything, but what's going through your mind, Sarah, when you're sitting there? You can unmute for a second. What's going through your mind, Sarah, while you're sitting at the table when the boss just gave a job to someone else without telling you, and you're not saying something? What's going on? What are you thinking?
Yeah, the first thing that would be like panic. Maybe I didn't do a good job. Why is it getting taken from me?
And let's go further. But it is being taken from you, and it is being taken from you because, let's keep on the story.
Because maybe I was like, did I not do a good job? Or maybe I think the first thing I would think is, am I like losing my job? Am I okay? Like,
yeah.
Like, I think I would just be a multiple of things would be going through my head at that moment.
Thousands of
wondering
things.
What's going on here? Blindsided, all those emotions.
And Alicia is your boss, by the way. And then you're looking at Alicia and saying to Alicia, oh, I know why she's doing this, because Alicia does it with everybody. Alicia's just has kind of, are you with me? Alicia's just like this. And all of a sudden you start telling your story about Alicia, and Alicia doesn't like me. Alicia doesn't like anybody. How quickly do we start telling ourselves stories, guys? It happens just like that. And what we do is we have to manage our thinking. So there's a thing called the ladder of inference. If you've ever heard of it before, it's this ladder. So the ladder kind of looks like this, and I'll just quickly go up the ladder, then I'll explain what it is. And this has to do with looking at difficult conversations differently. So the ladder looks like this. You observe something, just as a video might capture it. You add data to it. You add meaning to it. You make assumptions based upon the meaning I add. You draw conclusions. You adapt my beliefs about the world or people. You take actions on those beliefs, and you do this thing called a reflective loop, which means you don't really collect data at the real data point at the bottom. You actually jump up a ladder in the data, and you're actually going through a little loop. For example, let's throw something out here. Tish, you had no problem having difficult conversations. We're going to have one with you right now, okay? So, by the way, we're in a staff meeting, and Tish comes. No, we're all part of the one team, and the meeting starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we notice that Tish walks in the room and saunters in around 9:45, throws her book on the table and sits down. I want the rest of you to tell me, you want to unmute for a second, what kind of person comes late to a training meeting? Okay, throw this out here. What kind of person comes late to training meetings? Let's not be nice. Let's be really cruel. Come on. I'll start off with she's lazy.
They don't respect other people's time.
Don't respect time. They're lazy. What else?
I would think they're extremely unorganized.
Unorganized. Yeah. Come on. What else?
Training doesn't apply to them.
And why don't they apply, Rachel? Because it's a learning environment, but they don't need to learn because they're a know-it-all. Okay? I come from a faith-based background, so I'd say she's slothful too. There's another word, slothful person, right? So you're slothful, you're lazy, disrespectful to everybody else in the room. Now, Tish, I know you're not that, but how quickly, if I'm an instructor,
faith-based too.
what was that?
I'm faith-based too.
Okay, well, yeah, I was going to say, I'd like to be really nice to you, and I really apologize, Tish. You assumed I cared. Okay, it's interesting about the ladder. How quickly, as an instructor, could a guy go up that ladder about you, Tish? Anyone? How quickly does that happen? Instantly. Would I unconsciously treat Tish any differently than anybody else in that situation? Yeah. Unconsciously, I'd actually do things to show that I don't think you're respectful, you don't respect my time, you're not a learner, okay? So using the ladder to lead means I have to be really careful to managing my thinking about some assumptions I'm making about Tish from just looking at one small situation. Or even if, let's take this beyond this, for a staff member we have to have, or a person we have to have a difficult conversation with, and we go, well, yeah, but I just didn't meet them. They've had a pattern of behaviors that show me I have to have a difficult conversation. Here's the deal. People are like icebergs. We see about 5% of them, but 95% of people, we don't see what's going on below them. Would that be fair to say? And we are also very complicated and messy people. We live complicated lives. Things change in our lives constantly. So I would say one of the things about having a difficult conversation is managing our thinking clearly so we don't go up the ladder. And that's really important. Now, losing control. Here's some interesting, there's another video I thought was really good about losing control and some tips. And then we're going to get into framing the conversation and what that conversation looks like in the next 10 minutes after the video. Here we go. So now we're going to go into the part about managing the story. Hopefully that was helpful. I'm trying to take a full day workshop we do and bring it down to 1 hour, which is really hard to do. But we're going to land now in, I'm skipping triggers, which is really important to talk about triggers because we all have our own triggers. But we're going to talk about managing the story. So here's the deal. We don't like not knowing. When, when something happens to us and we're unsure what's going on and we don't know, what happens is we try to make up stories to convince ourselves that we are right. So when you're sitting in a situation and you're thinking about it, matter of fact, think of it this way. If you went out for lunch today and sat in a restaurant, you'll hear around the other tables people talking about their morning or their afternoon. If you listen closely, they're all retelling a story of what they saw happen that morning. You won't believe what happened. I was at this office in the meeting and you wouldn't believe what so-and-so said. And then they said this, and you know why they said it. And they start telling a story. You guys with me? We tell stories all the time. We make them up, even though we don't really know the full story. And we convince ourselves that we're the sort of the hero in the story and that everyone else is wrong. So our emotions aren't tied to the facts, but the stories we tell ourselves about what we perceive going on, that going up the ladder. And when we're dealing with differences, our job is to convince others that we're right and they're wrong so that they can change. That's the reality of managing our story. We have to come down the ladder and say, do I have a full picture of what's going on? Because just as other people are complex, I'm complex. So the battle of this one. So I'm going to now do the last steps in the last 6 minutes about this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I love The Office. 3 critical steps in challenging conversations. Number 1, you got to cool down, which means you got to manage your emotions. And the other video about the breathing and the heart rate because your adrenaline's flowing. And you have to slow down and reframe, climb down from the ladder, listen to learn rather than listen to respond, ask questions, understand. In my mantra, when I do it, when I train people, is the mantra I use is when I'm in a really difficult situation, I ask myself, what is my purpose here? Like it's an internal question. What's my purpose here? What am I trying to accomplish? The reason I ask the question is adrenaline's flowing in my body, and when adrenaline flows, it takes all the blood from the extremities, including my brain, and brings it down here. So I'm not thinking clearly. So I got to refocus on something. I refocus on a question that brings blood back up. Then I engage, build a common picture first, and then build a collaborative solution. So here's a framework for the opening statement. And we're going to kind of end on this and then do back to your assignment after the call. The opening framework looks like this. I'll go through the steps. There's an invitation to engage, which means I'm meeting with you to talk, and I'm going to expressing my purpose, describe the gap, and then called the question. That's the 4 steps. If you got the notes here, there's the 4 steps on an opening frame. Let me talk about a difficult conversation. Who can I have a difficult conversation with? Courtney, can I have a difficult conversation with you?
Sure.
Okay, Courtney, I'm trying to think something. You look so nice, Courtney. What would you do that would really piss me off? Now, I'm trying to think of something that you would do. I have to have a difficult conversation with you. Let's assume, oh, here's a good, well, yeah, we could do managing up conversations. I'm trying to think, what is a common problem you see in your office, Courtney? Not you, but other people. What do you think?
I think a common one that we've kind of talked about too is maybe if people are not coming into the office at a set time or missing meetings, and you might not know the reason why, but people think like, oh, they're lazy, or they're not working as hard, or they're not working as often.
Okay, so I'm the boss. I'm going to have a conversation with you, Courtney, okay? And you can tell me, now everyone else listen in, and you can tell me if this is offensive, and I'm going to have a really difficult conversation with Courtney. Ready? Courtney, can we chat for a minute?
Yes, of course.
Courtney, I have a problem and I need your help. Can you help me?
Yeah, I can try my best.
Yeah, Courtney, I'll tell you what's going on. Remember we had our meeting about a month ago, our staff meetings, and one of the things you said was important in terms of running our business or operation or charity here was that everyone was accountable and everyone took ownership of their own work, which means their problems and solutions. And you agreed with that. You said it was a great idea. I'll tell you what the problem is that I'm facing with, Courtney. I don't know how to resolve this. You say that, but I've noticed in the last 2 days and in the last week, I've noticed personally that you have been supposed to be coming in at 8:30 and you've been coming in at 8:45 on a regular basis. And I want to be in a position so we know when you're going to be coming in so we can have great meetings together. Is there something I need to know, Courtney?
Yeah, I've actually been having a really tough week getting my kids out of the house in time. They're not feeling super great. They're just kind of getting over a cold, and our mornings are a little slower. So I thought I would make that work up at the end of the day, but I probably should have talked to you about being late first.
Okay. And so now you notice how I framed the conversation, guys? It was a very difficult conversation. By the way, who had the problem when I walked in the conversation? Who had the problem, guys?
Gary.
I did. I had the problem because I perceived something was going on, but I didn't know what it was. So I say, can I have your help? Because I'm trying to understand something. And by the way, we only got a few minutes left, but if you're going to have a difficult conversation, the question at the end, if you want to write this down, it's really helpful. Is there something I need to know? Is a powerful line of an invitation, because I don't know, Courtney, right? I mean, I'm telling you what I've seen happening. I told you I want you in the office early. I want you in for meetings. I've noticed you haven't been easy. So I've given you an opportunity to respond to me. Now, I could have said this, Courtney, do you know what time it is? The meeting starts, we get in work at 8:30. It's 8:45. Get your butt in here at 8:30 tomorrow morning, right, Courtney? Now, I could say that to you. I mean, our relationship wouldn't be any stronger, right? And you'd be clear to me. But I think I made it clear to you, I want you into work early, right? I made it clear. So this is the deal. After the call, I want you to go back to your conversation you wrote down. Remember the 4 minutes you wrote something down? I want you to rewrite that conversation based upon the invitation to engage, expressing your purpose, describing the gap, you see some gap happening, and then the question, and then you ask yourself, is there a higher probability that I'm going to get success with this framework rather than the framework I was using? Sound good? Our time's up. It's now 1 o'clock.
Thank you so much, Gary, for a tremendous presentation. We've got excellent comments in the chat room about the quality of videos and some helpful suggestions. I have to make this presentation next Friday, next week, and I'm starting with a question that is there anybody, show of hands, anybody in the audience that absolutely believes they make a decision or reach a decision based exclusively on the facts. And of course, I have to convince them that's impossible, just doesn't happen. What happens is your values jump in between the two moments, and your idea of the ladder of inference provides me with the missing piece I need to prove a point, and it's an incredible one. Another number of great gems in there too. Let's see, I've got 2 new messages. They're all thank yous. We don't appear to have any questions, but if any do come my way, I'll be more than happy to reach out to you for those answers. I would like to just announce our winners and say goodbye to everyone. Mike Nelson of the Philip Aziz Center in Emily's House is one of our winners. I know Mike is online, and our other winner is Charmaine Cades or Cades from the Children's Aid Society. Both folks are benefiting from their interest in and participation in this program. And these are a result of Gary's wonderful donation and help today. There is a question from Sarah, perhaps, in our closing minutes. Go ahead, Sarah.
No, I
Great.
was just doing a clap for the winners. Sorry.
Oh, great. Okay. I thought. All right. Thanks again, Gary. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Thanks, Dean. That was good.